Ryan.
Hello, Josh.
Hello, sir. How are you
How are
today?
you? I am well. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I just started the recording, so let me take us live onto the Facebook and we'll get rolling. I always have this fear that I'm going to go to the wrong page or my main Facebook feed.
We did that once we were doing our virtual classes, and one of our coaches went live on their Facebook instead of the gym's Facebook. Didn't have as good of a turnout as we had expected.
You're like, wait, where is everybody? All right. Well, we're live on Facebook. I'm going to minimize that, put it over in the corner and get us rolling. For those of you guys that have historically maybe watched on Facebook, I put a link into the comment section if you are watching. That way you can jump in and join us live on Zoom. It always works best this way. I'm happy to see another face looking back at me this week. Last week I got moved to Monday and I was talking to myself about programming for an hour, which if you know me well enough, you know that I could do that for multiple hours at a time. But my goal here with all these as all of the mentors at Two Brains goal is to provide value to you guys. And the best way that we know how to do that beyond just talking into a microphone is to actually interact with you guys. So Brian, it's good to have you back today, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. I was a little disappointed that you didn't let me know you'd be teaching on Monday instead.
I'm sorry,
it's
man.
cool. It was last week. It's water under the bridge.
Water under the bridge. Did you watch it? Did you go back and see it?
I've been meaning to, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, I give out homework on these calls. So Brian, your first order of business for homework is to go back and watch that one.
Noted.
I actually did get some really good feedback on that one. Somebody shared that one of their coaches went and watched it, and they were saying that the way that they were being shown how to program was very like in the clouds and everything. And I made it very just kind of basic and easy. And I was like, oh, okay, good. Because at times I thought that I was kind of off in the clouds, but it's good to know that it was actionable enough to where you can just go out and just start programming right now.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. You won't even have banter with Taylor, so it'll be interesting.
No banter. The banter was with myself. But it actually did work out really well because I was planning whoever jumped on to the office hour, I was just going to walk through programming with them. So for their classes or their clients and just try to get some reps with them. But what I ended up doing is since I do the programming for my gym, I literally just walk through how I program, for my gym. So
cool.
The work that I usually do that on Fridays, the work that I usually do on Friday got moved to Monday. So I was ahead of the game and it was only Monday.
Right on. That's a good feeling.
Yes, it is. It was. I did make a couple of adjustments. Maybe I should go back and do like a little recap video. But anyways, Jessica, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Lifting out at the same time while I'm tuning in. So I may pop in and out my video, but it might be off the whole time too.
That sounds fine. Whatever you got to do, get her done. All right. Let me share my screen. Okay. So topic at hand today is, I promise I did not pick this title for it to be like, clickbaity or anything. It's just something that I really believe in. So the topic is how to guarantee success for your clients. All right. I think this is a neat topic to talk about for a couple of reasons. So my whys today, why are we covering this? Number one, I really believe that your value as a coach lies in your ability to deliver results. So somebody comes to you, has a health and fitness related goal. Your ability to deliver on that really determines the value that you have as a coach. The more results and the better results that you get, the more value that you hold as a coach. I initially had this listed out as your value lies in your ability to deliver results, but I wanted to make sure that I put that as a coach, because it's not your value as a human, not your value as, a dad or a mom, a brother or sister. We're purely talking from the coach's standpoint. So make sure that you take note of that distinction. It's really important. Number 2, guarantee. It's not gimmicky or a bait and switch tactic, but really it's a statement that is rooted in a deep understanding of what it takes to get somebody from point A to point B. Point A being where they are starting, where they are today with their unique abilities and experience, et cetera. And then where they want to go. What is the destination that they want to get to? What is that goal? And so when you guarantee something, what you're saying is, look, I get it. I understand where you're at. I have experience. I know what it's going to take, what obstacles you're going to be up against. And that's not gimmicky in any way. And I also want to make sure that I note that it's not arrogance either. All right. Arrogance and confidence are not the same thing. The other reason why I think that this is a really important topic to kind of broach today is when you guarantee something for somebody, it virtually eliminates all the risk from their side of things. All right. So when you say, hey, if this is your goal, I guarantee that I can get you there, the risk on the client's behalf goes down pretty much to zero. Now, it depends upon what does the guarantee look like? And we're not going to talk about the structure of guarantees from a business sense. This is purely from the coaching, the art of coaching side of things. But what it does do, and this is another important thing to take note of, is although the risk is eliminated from the client, all of that risk is absorbed by you, the coach. All right. So in that transaction or in that relationship, risk is present, but it is not present on the client. It is present on you, the coach. All right. So that is why I think this is a fun topic to talk about today. And the Cliffs Notes version. So for those of you that maybe are watching on Facebook, number 1, I would encourage you to click that link and join us. There's a link in the comment section. Click it, type in the password, join us live on Zoom. But if you know me well enough, you've seen a few, I always have a slide that is called the Cliffs Notes version of this presentation. That way, if you're like, what are the main takeaways? Maybe you don't have the ability to stay for the whole thing today and you just kind of want to get the big stones out of the way. There's 4 notes today on the Cliffs Notes slide. Number 1 is we want you to get clarity on the destination. Get clarity on the destination. The second piece is you need to identify potential obstacles. All right. So this is you pointing out where things could go wrong, how they can go wrong, things like that. Number 3 is you want to establish the available resources. And this is from the client side. What resources do they have available to them? And then the 4th step, this is probably pretty obvious, is you want to summarize your plan and come to an agreement with the client. Now, one thing that I do want to announce to Brian, because I know he's thinking this in his head, is where are the pictures? All right, the pictures are coming. We do have pictures today. I'm pretty excited about them. So this next slide is picture number 1. So let's get into each of these 4 steps. First, we want to get clarity on the destination. Another way to think of this is your ability to focus. Okay, your ability to focus. So this is not at all about you sitting down with somebody and them listing off 15 things that they have that they want to achieve in the next month, in the next quarter, in the next year. This is your ability for yourself as a coach. This is a skill. And then also for the client to just focus on one thing. You want to get clarity on their destination. Okay. And here's kind of some food for thought. The more generalized that you allow this to be, the more room for error. So imagine if you are performing a science experiment. If you remember back from science class, you want to have one variable that you can test against, because that makes your experiment reliable, it makes it repeatable, and it makes it really relevant to what your hypothesis is, okay? When you introduce multiple variables into a science experiment, or when you have a goal that is really broad, general, and kind of all-inclusive, there's a lot of room for error. For instance, if you sit down with somebody and they say, and you ask them, hey, what's your goal? Why are you here? Why did you come to my gym? What are you hoping that we can do for you? And they say, you know what? I want to lose weight. Say, great, let's go ahead and get you signed up. We're going to have you jump into some one-on-one personal training and some nutrition coaching, and you're going to be on your way, and you're happy because they signed up. They're spending a lot of money, and you feel like they are getting a lot of value for that. Okay. But the problem is that is a really, really generalized goal, and it's very, very surface level. Okay. So this is where you start to ask all sorts of questions. All right. And one of the things that I love to think about is this idea of aim small, miss small. All right. Aim small, miss small. So if you have a goal of losing 23.5 pounds and you lose 24 and a quarter, all right, we're close, but you missed, but it's a really, really small miss. Okay. Versus if you have a goal of losing, say, 5 pounds and you lose 75 pounds, that could be very problematic potentially. All right. Or vice versa. If the goal is to lose 75 and you only lose 5, all right, you did not aim or miss small. All right. And pop quiz today, Brian, since your camera's on, you will get 4 points. All right, which are useless for nothing at all, but you will get 4 points if you can tell me from what movie this photo on this slide is taken from. And if you're watching on Facebook and you're wondering, you know, where, or if you know where that came from, if you could name the movie, go ahead and throw your hat in the ring. Brian?
I'm going to guess Huck Finn.
Oh, man, that's a great guess, but no cigar. Oh, we have somebody in the chat. Jessica Sally says literally no clue. All right.
I was really
Jessica
hoping
doesn't
to get
know
those
either.
useless points.
Yeah, no useless points yet. All right, I'm going to give you the actor, the star actor in this movie is Mel Gibson.
The Patriot.
The Patriot, yes. Yes, this is towards the very beginning of the movie where he hunts down these, the bad guys, let's say, the British. He hunts down the British with his 2 younger sons when the older one was basically taken and is going to get shot somewhere. So he tells the little ones, hey, remember what I taught you, aim small, miss small. So I thought that was pretty cool to use in the slide today. It's 2 pictures, Brian, if you're keeping count.
Oh, I am.
All right, so let's unpack this one a little bit more. So we're still in number 1, get clarity on the destination. Here's some of the questions that can help you get clarity. Number 1 is you want to ask the client, how are you going to know if and when you achieve your goal? And this really speaks to KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. And that's kind of like a business term, but KPIs can be relevant for fitness coaching too. It could be max kettlebell swings in 10 minutes. It can be the weight that you have on the bar for a 1 rep deadlift. It can be how many strict pull-ups you can do, how much weight you lose. All right. So those are all examples of KPIs. Okay. They can be a little bit more subjective in nature when people come in and say, you know, I want to feel good. I want to not be in pain when I go to play with my kids on the weekend. Okay, great. So let's establish something that's a little bit more objective in nature for us to know, us to be on the same page that when you say you are out of pain, what areas are you specifically talking about? Your hips, your knees, your ankles, your T-spine, your neck, your shoulder, your wrist, your elbow, you know, what area, and then what type of pain? Can you describe what that is? Because I don't know about you guys, But if you've ever injured something and it's just been something that has just been persistent for a while, you deal with the aches and pains, but you are going through some sort of process to get it better, rehab, mobility work, anything like that. And then one day you wake up and you realize, like, holy crap, my shoulder just doesn't hurt anymore. And you can't really remember when it stopped hurting. You just wake up and realize it one day because you just kind of became aware that it's not been hurting you. Now, if we can establish some sort of metric or some sort of way to track this, where every day you wake up and you're looking at this thing, a little tracker of, are you in pain? Where is it? Scale of 1 to 10, so on and so forth. That is a way that we can establish with the client how they're going to know if and when you achieve your goal, right? So that's number one. Another question that is great to ask is just about historically, is this something they've done before? You know, have you gotten out of pain? Have you deadlifted this before? Have you run this far in this amount of time? Or have you gained or lost this amount of weight before? And if not, find out if they've done something similar, you know, or maybe you can just simply ask, when's the last time that you set a goal and achieved it? Because that's going to give you great insight into some questions that you can ask later on when we talk about establishing the available resources that somebody can use to their advantage. Another one is, are you looking to maintain this result for good, or is this a short-term fix? You know, if you get a client that comes in and says, I really want to lose 20 pounds, and you establish that you've got a timeline, you know how they're going to figure out, was this successful, was it not? They've done it before. And you ask them this question, are you looking to maintain it for good, or is this a short-term fix? And they're brutally honest. They're like, look, my best friend's getting married, and then we're going to the tropical islands, and I'm going to be in a bathing suit for a week, you know, for the celebration. I want to look good. I really don't care about it after the fact. That's going to be a very different looking protocol than somebody who says, you know what? It's been a long time since I was at that weight, and it is something that I want to get to and achieve for the long haul. Those are two totally different processes that you're going to put this person through. The destination may look very, very similar, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. Because when we go into the next part about establishing a timeline of the expected result, that plays a big factor. Okay. So in a little more than a week, the US is going to celebrate Thanksgiving. And so if you get somebody in, you know, the beginning of October that has a goal, you know, to deadlift double body weight, and they want to do it before they see all their friends and family at the holidays, you can say, hey, you know, there's a lot of holidays that are coming up. Is this something that you're needing to have achieved before Thanksgiving? Or are we looking at Christmas time, the New Year, Valentine's Day? Again, those are all very, very different timelines. And that's going to dictate what process and what plan you present to them later on in the conversation. Another way that you can help them think through this is figuring out what is an unacceptable time frame to them. I really don't care. I just want to lose the weight. Oh, okay, that's great. So you can certainly lose 60 pounds, but it's going to take you about 18 months. Are you okay with that? And then sit there, be quiet, and let them kind of stew on this timeline, because it's very easy to make an emotional decision in the moment that, yep, I love what Brian and Jessica are saying. This sounds great. I'm going to lose the weight that I want to lose. And then you hit them with, okay, it's probably going to take at least 18 months to get there, maybe more. Are you okay with that? All of a sudden, things may turn out a little bit differently in their head, and they have to reframe what it is exactly that they're after and why. So that's getting clarity on the destination. I'm going to grab a sip of water, check Facebook, but Brian or Jess, if you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to unmute yourself, and give me feedback if there is anything so far.
Well, I really love just asking more specifically about the pain one, because that is one I get all the time. And they're like, well, I want to feel better and I don't want to hurt so much or be so achy. But giving them an actual like performance indicator is genius.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think about is, the most pervasive kind of chronic pain that is out there that we all as coaches know of is like low back pain, right? Chronic low back pain. I don't have the statistics in my head. I'm sure our mentor Ashley Mack has that, because that's kind of a specialty. But if you just kind of blindly assume that, like, oh man, they sit behind a desk all day, they're a little overweight, they kind of move a little funny, it's got to be low back pain, and you put together a plan to fix that, even if it's the perfect plan, if their shoulder hurts, then it's all for naught, right? So it's really important that we establish, like, where's the pain, figuring out what are the metrics of getting out of it. Is there movements that you want to be able to do? Like, I want to be able to garden without my shoulder hurting or my back hurting. These are the questions that you can continue to ask for clarity on before you actually move on to the next step. All right. So number one, we just finished that up, getting clarity on the destination. Number two is we want to point out potential obstacles. And this is really where your insight and experience as a coach come in handy. All right. So I think I've done a lot of kettlebell swings, kettlebell snatches, kettlebell clean and jerks, all that kind of stuff. But if somebody comes to me with a specific issue to do with wanting to get better at swinging the kettlebell, I now have somebody that I'm going to send them to that I'm confident knows way more than I do with that specific modality. And that's going to be Brian, right? If I'm dealing with somebody who is really struggling with being locked down in their house because of, COVID for so long, just with the restrictions and everything, I don't mean specifically having COVID, but I just mean the restrictions. I can't relate to that as well as Jessica can, right? And so while I do have insight and experience at a surface level on a couple of those things, it's not going to be to the extent that Brian and Jessica have in their respective kind of areas of expertise. But this is really when you point out potential obstacles, this is where you can lean real heavy on your life experience, your professional experience, okay? For instance, if somebody has a goal to get as strong in the back squat as possible, and they also happen to be pretty good at endurance type events right now, one of the questions I'm going to ask them is, are you okay with your endurance falling off as long as you get to a triple body weight back squat? All right. So, because my experience has shown historically, when you pursue the the furthest potential, physical potential for something like a back squat, there are going to be some things that are going to fall by the wayside. All right. Because you're going to be dedicating a lot of time and energy to time under tension with a barbell and less time to get out and run and row and ride your bike. And that's not even taking into account the potential downsides of concurrent training, where we're looking at strength and conditioning in the same session. It could just be purely, hey man, I've only got 2 hours a day to train. Okay. Well, knowing that, we're going to focus all that time under a barbell and not on a bike or running. Are you okay with that? So that's one way to look at pointing out potential obstacles. The other one is just the whole giving up X in order to achieve Y. If you've got a really, really aggressive weight loss goal, a shortened time frame, I'm probably going to be more restrictive with what I tell you is okay to eat or not okay to eat based upon your timeline that you're giving me. Are you okay with having no pies at Thanksgiving in order to achieve your weight loss goal by the new year? No, I'm not, because my wife makes an amazing pecan pie. And for those of you that don't know what word that is that I just used, Pecan, if you married a Southern woman, is pronounced pecan, not pecan. And I will take that to my grave because it is delicious and tasty. And she threatened that if I ever said it the other way, where my family is from, like the Midwest, I will never get one of those pies again. So I know what to do to get what I want, Brian and Jessica.
Loud and clear.
Exactly. Now, my grandma, on the other hand, when she first heard us saying that, she was not pleased, God rest her soul, but she said, I love you and I love your wife, but you pee in a can, you eat pecans. So that has also stuck with me too. There you go. A pecan goes under the bed. Jessica gets it too. We're cut from the same cloth. Right. So pointing out potential obstacles. Are you okay with giving up your pies at Thanksgiving in order to achieve your body composition goal? Here's another one, pointing out potential difficulties. Are you aware that most people see no weight loss for 10 to 14 days when they are embarking on a path that looks like yours does, that your goal is a year from now, not 3 months from now, and pointing out, hey, you're going to be making some changes to your daily habits, the daily actions that you take, and probably not going to see any fruit of your labor for a couple of weeks. Are you okay with that? Okay, because psychologically, we know that, again, when the emotional decision is made, yes, I'm ready to make a change right now. That's easy in the moment. We're excited about it. But then 4, 5, 6 days later, you're sitting on the couch and no change has been made. And it's very easy to slip back into your habits. Again, as a coach, what you're doing is you're leveraging your experience, both in life and professionally, pointing out the difficulties that your client is going to encounter. Okay. Others that you could point out is just detours, feeling like you're not marching down the right path. Maybe you are still pointed in the right direction, but it feels like you're taking steps to the left or the right instead of forward. It could also be that they're going to experience some backward momentum. Okay. So just taking the time to point these things out, make sure as you're doing this, you're watching, facial expressions, you're listening to tone of voice. How does their body language change? Did they go from being very open and receptive to what you're saying to closed off, arms folded, downcast like Brian is right now, all of a sudden he's like, I'm done with this guy, his presentations. I can't take it anymore. But these are all things that you want to make sure you're taking note of so that you can use it in your summary later, right? So when you present your plan to them and then you're kind of recapping what you've learned, this is where you can pull back from this conversation here, all right? So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is we're going to establish available resources. Okay, establish available resources. And there's really 4 main resources that we all have at our disposal at any given time. The first one being time, right? So we've all got 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week. And some people get a lot done with that and some people don't. But the resource is the same for all of us. Money, totally different, right? Some people have millions and billions of dollars. Some people have a couple of pennies that they are happy to rub together. So money is resource number 2. Number 3 is people resources. And the way that I would describe this is like supportive or unsupportive relationships, maybe with a spouse, maybe coworkers, other people kind of in their sphere of influence, that little circle that they run in. And then the last resource is like skills and talents. So if you're working with a client who wants to change their body comp, but they don't have a skill to meal prep or to cook food from scratch, maybe you having them weigh and measure their food and cook all their meals at home is not the smartest thing to prescribe to them. So it's really relevant for us as coaches to figure out what resources is this client working with? Okay. Some other things to consider is like the expectation of communication. So what do you as the coach need and want from your client to do your job effectively? For instance, I think I've shared this before, but just in case, and it's also worth reiterating, when I take on individual coaching clients, my expectation is that for every day that I give them something to do, so if it's like I've got a client that I've trained for almost 10 years now that's been to the CrossFit Games a few times as a competitor. And my expectation is if I give you 5 days of training, I need 5 days of feedback from you on that training. And it needs to happen on that day of. So today I already got his feedback from the training that he did earlier today. Okay. And we call that, in our world, we call that the AAR, which I actually stole from him because he's a retired Army, and that's a part of what they do. It's their after action report. But that's my expectation for communication between me and a client that I work with. And I tell them up front before they ever give me money that if you can't commit to this, then we can't work together. Okay. So I'm very open and honest that this is the system that I use to ensure that we are going to have a successful kind of relationship here. And ultimately for you to be successful getting to where you want to go. The other thing that you got to find out is, what does the client need and want from you in order to be successful? Okay. So for instance, if I tell him, hey, look, my expectation is that you give me your AAR every day, Monday through Friday, that you train. And he says, great. What I want from you is feedback on that AAR. Well, the next piece is for you to be honest on what you can and cannot deliver on. So if he says, I expect you to, review it and respond to maybe any questions that I have, I say, great, I can certainly commit to that. I reply to emails no later than 24 hours after they're sent, or 48 hours if it's the weekend, or what is that, 3 days? So, 72 hours if it's the weekend or something like that, right? So if they send an email on Friday, I promise to respond sometime on the following Monday, no later than that. But again, just being honest on what you need, and then in terms of what the client needs, be honest on what you can and cannot deliver on. Okay. Any questions on this from establishing available resources, things like that? Just as a random consideration, from a available resource standpoint, for instance, if you've got a client that travels a lot, and your expectation is that, they're going to work out every day that they're gone, Monday through Friday, you've got to make sure that they have that resource available to them, whether it's in the form of a hotel gym, agreeing that, they're going to get their workout by running stairs in the hotel, running outdoors. You've got to be the one that thinks ahead. And that goes back to the second piece of pointing out potential obstacles. You've got to have the foresight to think ahead, to say, okay, I know you want to work out every day, even when you're traveling, but let's figure out what resources you have available to make sure that we can still be successful in that. All right, I was just checking Facebook to make sure we didn't have any comments there. All right, next, we're going to do a quick experiment. So Brian, I was really hoping that you were going to be on this call today because it's really relevant to where you live and where I live. So for this experiment, we need a clear destination. So I'm going to drive, or we need to drive from where I'm at in Florida to where Brian is in Washington. And where specifically is that again?
Seattle. Are you in Pensacola?
No, I'm near Tampa.
Tampa. Okay.
Tampa. Yeah. So actually, let's see, if we were to drive, how long would that take? Seattle. Because I'm not flying right now.
One day and 20 hours.
One day, it's 44 hours. Holy crap. All right. Seattle is 2,500 miles away. And according to Brian's calculations, that's 44 hours of driving time. Okay. So the next thing we've established is there's a little bit of a time frame. Brian emailed me. He was very distraught, depressed. He has no plans for Thanksgiving, doesn't know how to cook a turkey, has never had pecan pie. So I'm going to load up the family, get in the car, and come out to see him. Okay. So we've got a time frame. All right. What are some other considerations that you guys can think of? And Jess, you can speak up. Brian, you can speak up too. What are some other things that based upon what we've talked about, that we need to consider on our little experiment here?
Rest stops.
Rest stops. All right. Rest stops. How many? Yeah. Rest stops. All right. So I know traveling with the kids, the really pushing it 10 hours a day of driving is like, that's it. All right. So 10 hours a day of driving. So that means what? That means it's going to take me 4.5 days of driving. Ooh. Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge it's very nice of you to bring the whole family and meal to me versus just me coming to you and your family. But
yeah,
I didn't force you to do this.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I didn't say about Brian's email is that on the PS, it said that he's a great babysitter. He loves getting up early with kids, entertainment, the whole 9 yards. So that really sold it for me. So, Jess, I saw you unmute yourself. I think earlier, did you have something to add here? Some other considerations?
Well, I was going to say snacks and food. That's always my first consideration for a road trip.
Snacks and food. And now I'm wondering, I'm just thinking about the car that we have, if I'm going to be able to pile in enough snacks and food in that car to get there, right? Yeah. Okay.
Good point.
So we've got, so let's say that like we've considered resources, we've gotten clarity on the destination. We established a timeline, kind of pointed out some potential obstacles. Oh, there's another one here because I'm known to have a lead foot. So speed traps. All right. Traffic, holiday traffic. So that could turn 44 hours into 60 hours. And then we're looking at 6 days. And really, we've only got like 8 days if I left today to get there. Right.
You better hurry.
Man. All right. So now it's becoming a question of like, is this doable? Right. We've established resources. So let's say I've got the time. I'm going to leave today. You got the money for gas.
Gas prices.
I don't know what gas is like in Seattle, but goodness gracious.
It's like $4.70, $4.50. Oh,
I don't know, man. It might be cheaper to fly out there, Brian.
I know.
All right.
But hey,
so
that's willing to call
else?
audibles.
Yeah, right. Skills, I can drive, my wife can drive, so we've got that going for us. All right. So let's say we get all this done. All right. And you're the coach and I'm the person. I'm like, I'm coming out to see you. And you're like, great. And you present me with this plan, because a big component of all this is we got to get in the car. And so what do you need to show me? You need to show me the car, right? The vehicle that's going to get me from Florida to Seattle, Washington in a little over a week. We know it's going to take at least 44 hours on normal traffic, no hiccups, gas, all that kind of stuff, speed traps. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the vehicle that Brian presents to me.
Hey, she doesn't look like much, but she's got it where it counts.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm not feeling real confident about your plan here, Brian. I mean, I like what you had to say. You pointed out some things. I just feel like we need to go back to the drawing board here, because that is not inspiring a lot of confidence, right?
Come on, man.
The first thing that you've got to do after you've had all this conversation is present your plan. And I am a car person, like a car nut, and I do not know what kind of car this is. Looks like maybe an Oldsmobile from the 70s, one of those gigantic V8s. I don't even know if the state of Washington would allow this thing in there with all the gas it's going to be guzzling. But you're going to present your plan with honesty. You're going to go back over all the things we've talked about. And at the end of the day, you need to get an agreement. But right now, I'm not agreeing to the plan that you have presented to me. Okay. Here's the other thing to consider, just kind of taking it back to health and fitness. The more complex that your plan is, the more confusing it becomes. So doubt creeps in, trust goes down, and trust goes down in you, like my trust in you as the coach, and then my trust in your plan, right? So when we look back at that car, like, how complex is it to get this bumper to stay on there, Brian? Like, is this
That's
thing gonna
really
stay? Is there a whole SOP on how to open and close the door and keep it watertight? I mean,
It's some really strong, reliable rope, so the bumper will hold.
okay.
And the door is there just to keep the water out.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So, we talked about complexity of plans, losing doubt, trust, and all that kind of stuff. If you and the client are not super, super clear on your destination, right? So Seattle's a pretty good destination, but how many, probably a few million people live in Seattle, right? So an even better destination, and I'm not asking for you to put it out here publicly, would be like, what's your home address? Where in Seattle am I actually going? So if you are not clear on the destination, and this goes for the client not being clear and you as the coach not being clear on the destination and then the plan to get there, like, man, I know you want me to get into that jalopy and drive from here to Washington, but I'm just not really feeling it. Great. I'm going to repeat steps 1 through 3 as many times as it takes. And this is where some more inexperienced coaches can really get uncomfortable. The reason is because you're having to ask some of the same questions that the client has already answered for you. Now, as you get more experienced, your ability to ask better questions increases for sure. But then your ability to ask the same question, but in different ways, also improves. Okay. So maybe at the beginning, the destination was Seattle and I'm the coach. And I say, Brian, I know you've told me that you're really wanting to go from Florida to Seattle, but I'm not really clear, exactly where in Seattle we're going. Do you happen to have anything more concrete? Maybe an address of the house that you are driving to? Do you have anything like that? And so I'm not outright asking like, all right, where do you want to go? I'm not repeating that same question, but I am in a different way. So after you kind of go back through step 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, as many times as it takes, you're going to agree on action. So Brian and I have had our conversation. We have identified that I do not feel overly confident in his original plan to get me from point A to point B. He presents a new plan, and I am stoked with his new plan. Brand new BMW 7 Series, practically drives you. Has got a gas tank that'll take me halfway. I might have 3 fill-ups. My kids are going to be in the back watching movies. I got a privacy screen that comes up. It's the whole 9 yards. This is the plan that I am ready to rock and roll with. No issues getting there by Thanksgiving. All right. So all jokes aside, the other thing that you want to make sure that you do, and I use this slide, not my last week presentation, but the week before, and I almost deleted it, but I thought it was really good and relevant to the presentation today, is make your plan so easy for the client that they can't say no to it. All right. So easy they can't say no. Because at the end of the day, what we know as coaches is that if they are consistent with the plan that we put forth, the results all but take care of themselves. And this speaks much more to the process than the outcome. Okay? Because let's be honest, there are some outcomes you simply can't guarantee. And we didn't get into that, but I think that kind of goes without saying. There are a lot of things that are beyond your control. And that's part of the conversation that you have with somebody. If you talk about guaranteeing results, you can be honest, like, look, I can guarantee that you're going to lose, at least this much weight, but I can't make any guarantees on this. Or I can guarantee that you are going to do better than you did at the CrossFit Open last year. I can't guarantee that you're going to win the games. All right. So the more things that are beyond your control, the less your ability to guarantee a result. But when you take it and make it very simple, make the plan very clear that they buy into, and make it very easy that they can't say no, success is all but guaranteed. And if there was a way for me to like pick up this mic and then drop it and it to go right with the sound and everything, I would do it, but I'm not going to, because I don't know if it'll break. So, but that's what I had for guaranteeing results. So as a recap, we can go back up to the Cliff's Notes. Number one, you got to get clarity, figure out where you're going. All right. Because if you work really, really hard for a really long time in the wrong direction, man, that is going to be hard to reconcile. Okay. Number two, identify potential obstacles. And this is where your insight and experience, personally, professionally, life experience, talking to other coaches, what you've learned, all those things play a part in identifying potential obstacles. Number three, understanding what the client has to work with, their available resources. If they want to run a marathon in under 3 hours, they've never done it before, and the marathon's in 3 months, and they run a 10-minute mile, sorry, the resources are not there to get you where you want to go. You can be honest with them. All right. And then number four is you want to present the plan, right? What's the summary? Summarize everything that you've learned. Are you sure this is where you want to go? Are we missing anything from a resource perspective? Is there any other areas where maybe you've tried this before and things have gone wrong that we didn't cover? Again, tying it back into resources. And then finally, great. We come to an agreement. Thanksgiving is next Thursday. Brian wants the pecan pie, and I'm in the car today. Cool.
Very cool.
Brian, any questions?
I do actually have a good question. Well, I don't know if it's a good question or not, but I do have a question.
It is, I'm sure.
And it's kind of complicated because I know that it changes from state to state, but generally, as like staying in your lane within your wheelhouse as a coach, trying to help navigate like nutritional advice and this is a topic that I've really like avoided, or a talking point that I've avoided with my clients, because I think it's a little different in Washington, to where I shouldn't really be advising them on any nutritional work. But, I've had a client that came in one day and wasn't feeling great when we started getting moving a little more. And then I found out that they had a Big Mac like 2 hours prior. So it's like, oh, okay. In my head, I know that that's a terrible idea. But how do you kind of navigate around those things within staying in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, that's such a great one, man. And this has just been a huge, huge topic that just pops up, every month, really. And so at Two Brain Coaching, we brought on Jen Broxterman, and she built out the nutrition coaching course. And this is one of the things that we really went round and round and round, clarifying, like in a really good, productive way. And she created a handful of resources for us. And I actually, as you were talking, I dug up one of the articles that she wrote for Two Brain Coaching that's basically addressing that topic. But the Cliff's Notes version of it is, if you are customizing habits, so if you were talking about good, healthy habits, you're good in 50 states. Where things start to break down and you have to be concerned with the laws in your state is if you're given macronutrients, if you are talking about meal plans, and adjusting those types of things. again, some states are cool with that. Some states are wide open. You can pretty much do all of that stuff. But actually, up until I think it was early last year sometime, Florida was a really, really restrictive state to where you couldn't do those things. So as long as it's habits and you're talking about habit-based coaching, you are a-okay. And again, that article lays out like, specific state requirements and things like that. But the gist of it at the bottom part is like, look, if you're just coaching, healthy habits, you're going to be fine. The other thing to make sure that, you don't fall trapped to, because this was kind of a narrative that was out there for a while, is if you have a registered dietitian that oversees the nutrition coaching program at your gym, it was believed that, their RD kind of blankets your ability to coach nutrition from a macro meal plan, et cetera, standpoint, because you have them backing you. But the reality is that's simply not true whatsoever. And the RD is taking on a lot of risk, as is you, the coach, and the gym owner. So the way to just stay clear and be safe no matter what, and stay within scope, is habits, healthy habits,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a great answer. And thank you for the article as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. And if there's any other resources, that you're looking for, I would look at that nutrition coaching course, because she's got a ton of available things that come with it to just kind of empower you to coach nutrition from a place that stays within scope, that's not going to jeopardize you as a coach or your gym in and of itself. Jess, did you have something to add there?
Well, I'm just going to chime in and say that course was great. I took it about a year ago, and I'd also taken Precision Nutrition's level 1. And just the way that it was broken down in the 2Brain course for practical daily action habits was awesome. So highly recommend.
Yeah,
cool.
It's one of those things that if you're just looking at like what mainstream nutrition coaching is all about, it is very reflective on like weighing and measuring food, calories, and adjusting those things, having meal plans, because that's what people think they need to be successful. And so as a coach, if that's really all you're consuming and getting inundated with, when you find out that from a legal standpoint, you really shouldn't be doing that, depending upon where you're at, you feel like you've got no more bullets in your gun, right? It's like, man, I've exhausted all the resources in my toolkit, but this one introduces a whole new host of different tools that you can put into your toolbox to help people,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Jess, any specific questions from you?
No, I think the only thing that I might still have difficulty is, and when you set the expectations on the client, like, I need you to give me this feedback, I think I'm probably just a little bit too soft on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, kind of how I'm working around it, if they don't track and I've asked them to, then I'll say, what's holding you back? Is it the fact that it's an electronic app? Are you more of a pen and paper person? But yeah, I think I just need to get a little bit more firm on, you need to do this, or I can't guarantee this will work.
Yeah. And so this kind of ties back into what I was saying with like experience and insight. So as you learn more about, potential obstacles that your clients are running into, I would actually rewrite that back into your consultative process to say, you know what, something that clients have found really tough in the past is they agree to give me daily feedback in this app. And then after 2 weeks, it becomes more of a chore. Have you had experience with tracking and doing all those things? So you're trying to lay out what you've seen other people struggle with all of your new clients, or maybe all of your clients that you're meeting with on a monthly basis or something like that. The other thing, it doesn't have to be anything like an official legal document, but I've had coaches that have drawn up basically like contracts for me as a client to say, like, I will do this thing, and at the end, in big bold letters, it's if I do not do these things, then I can't expect the program to work as it is designed, because part of it working is you doing this, right? And again, is that going to be a fail safe? No, because at the end of the day, remember, we're dealing with human beings, but I know for me, it's enough to kind of stop me and be like, oh, okay, they say that this is a really important component. If I'm expecting to get the results that I'm looking for, I've got to make sure that I do all the things they're saying to do.
I like that.
Yeah. Before I go, I just want to double check that nothing was on Facebook. All right, we're good there. Cool. All right, guys. Anything else before we go, or are we all good? All right. So if anyone happens to watch this later and has any questions for me, or wants to point out anything, just shoot me an email, josh@twobraincoaching.com, or you can always post it into the comments on the live Facebook feed as soon as that processes and uploads. The other thing too is if there's anything that you guys would like to learn about, or that you find is like a sticking point for you as a coach that you just can't quite figure out or get right, working with clients, please let me know. And I will add that into the rotation for some of the upcoming weeks. So I'm all ears. Anything you guys would like me to teach on. And if it's kettlebells, then I'm going to bring Brian on and he's going to teach and I'll moderate.
Sweet. All right. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks guys for tuning in.
Thanks,
and I will see you back here next week.